Enjoy to the lowest of the foul and rank. We submerge through darkness, rancid filth. Hour by hour, we move downward, ever closer to hell, in a slow, steady gait. Now, let the world resonate.
Honestly, when I opened this year with my video about irredeemable villains, I had no idea so many people would take to it so readily, though I'm not complaining. I love talking about villains, both when they're done well and when they're done poorly, and I have to say villains are probably becoming one of my favorite aspects of media, especially when it comes to discussion. And there are a ton of different villains out there to talk about, but for today's video, we'll be discussing more irredeemable monsters that take the guise of villains. I'm MangaKamen, and join me with... As a YouTuber, I often need to do my best to support smaller creators, and I need to start doing that more often, so let's begin here. Allow me to introduce you guys to Children of Olympus, a thrilling sci-fi novel. A tale of adventure, mystery, and the pursuit of truth. If you're a fan of epic space operas, complex characters, and high-stakes drama, then you should totally pick up Children of Olympus. Join Ren, a courageous young woman who defies her father to uncover the truth behind the Grand Olympus space station. What starts as a personal quest quickly spirals into a mission that could change the fate of the entire galaxy. You not only support the author by purchasing this book, but you also get a chance to get some art that I made, since I provided the cover art for it. This book is a labor of love that my friend has been making for the past 3 years, and has been professionally edited. He and I worked hard to make the cover and the steps from the norms of sci-fi books, so if this is something you're interested in, please consider picking up a copy from Amazon. Link down below in the description and pinned comment. Again, my friends, check out Children of Olympus. And now, back to the video.
Just gonna spank you, but spank you on the bum.
Well, that line certainly isn't going to be taken out of context. Devil May Cry, a series full of love, hate, terrible platforming, and some of the smoothest combat known to man. But in all honesty, it's a series that I've grown closer with my heart. Even with some of the more arduous members of this series notwithstanding, I can still find something pleasing about them. Today, though, we'll be starting off with one of the more prominent villains of the series, Arkham from Devil May Cry 3.
You a customer too? Well, if you want to use the bathroom, help yourself. The toilet's in the back.
Is your name Dante, son of Sparda?
Where did you hear that?
From your brother. He sent this invitation for you. Please, accept it.
Arkham is an interesting case when it comes to villains, especially when it comes to irredeemable ones. If anything, he's what a lot of villains should become, a cunning manipulator, lacking a sense of morality, and acting as a thematic foil to the game's themes and hero. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Who is Arkham? He is the primary antagonist in Devil May Cry 3 Dante's Awakening, a power-hungry human who seeks to unlock the power of the Dark Knight Sparda, willing to manipulate and kill anyone he needs to in order to obtain his goal. It's a very simple premise for a villain, someone wanting power, sacrificing anyone and anything to do it, including murder. He's also the one who gets the ball rolling for the plot of the game, having approached Virgil before the start.
You're looking for the book of ancient legends, the tale of the demon warrior Sparda.
That's not what I'm looking for. Leave me.
Then what are you looking for? A demon that impregnates a woman who then bears twin sons. That's the story, isn't it?
Ironically being a devil to offer Virgil a deal to acquire the powers of Sparda. Arkham is what you would call a manipulator, a topic I've touched a few times on this channel, and he's a good one, orchestrating the entire conflict and taking advantage of the other characters' personal motivations in the game. Virgil, his thirst for greater power. The main character Dante, playing to the conflict that Dante has with his brother Virgil. And of course, Lady, Arkham's own daughter and a young woman on a mission to kill him for taking the life of her mother. Arkham is willing to do whatever it takes to move the pieces where he needs them to be.
I even went so far as dressing like a complete idiot.
And I think that's what makes Arkham a very good, irredeemable villain. It's that he's willing to do whatever it takes for the sake of his goals. Before the story actually begins, Arkham sacrifices his wife, Kalina Ann, in a ritual to gain demonic power, which in turn left Lady traumatized and vengeful.
He was obsessed with becoming the devil, so much he killed his own wife! For that, he butchered innocent people, too. He's the most vile kind of creature. To top it off, that filthy scum is my father.
Well, we have something in common. I have a dysfunctional family, too.
Of course, this is something that Arkham exploits for his own ends, twisting and warping the emotions that Lady has, because even though she hates him for what he did, he still is her father, and if there's even a minute chance that he was being used, she'll take it. So, after being stabbed by Virgil, with the son of Sparda no longer seeing use in the vile human who he worked with, Arkham is supposedly on his last minutes of life when Mary discovers him.
Mary? Is that you? What's happening? Where's your mother?
My mother? You killed her, remember?
Yes. That's right. I killed her. With my own hands. I succumbed to his influence.
You mean you were possessed? Father?
Yes, I was manipulated. Manipulated by a devil named Virgil.
Which, if anyone was actually paying attention to the location and cutscenes, will know that's complete bull. Because we as the audience know, that's not where Arkham was stabbed. He was actually moved around and positioned himself in a different location. So it's clear he's still manipulating everyone, even playing on whatever little emotions Lady has left for her father, just to push her to attack Virgil.
You forced him into this.
Is that what you think? Foolish girl.
And of course, it was a ruse.
Bravo! Bravo! I never dreamed that things would go so smoothly. Well done, everyone. Well done.
You.
Don't be a bad girl, Mary. Or you can expect a spanking from Daddy later. Just as gonna spank you, but spank you on the butt.
I needed you. In whose body flows the same blood as the sacrificed woman.
All to get them to the location where Arkham needed to perform the ritual to acquire the powers of Sparda. And he does succeed. Arkham does acquire the demonic powers.
It's like staring into a backed-up toilet.
Arkham certainly falls into the category of being an irredeemable villain, mostly due to the actions the man takes to pursue his lust for a godlike power. Though one thing I should mention is that while his actions are terrible, that alone doesn't make Arkham a great irredeemable villain. It's easy to have a character to do terrible things and just slap on that moniker onto someone. But the reason I believe Arkham is a great irredeemable villain is that he acts as a great thematic foil in DMC3's story, serving as a dark mirror to the two brothers, Dante and Virgil. Contrasting with Dante, who throughout the story shows he's embraced his human side through his humor, loyalty, and eventual empathy, Arkham rejects his own humanity, viewing it as a weakness. The fact that Arkham was so readily willing to throw away the life of his wife and manipulate his daughter shows a disregard to human connections, which in and of itself shows a weakness in Arkham. Yes, he does acquire the powers of Sparda, but it warps him into a grotesque blob who, while his boss fight is complete bullshit, eventually falls to both Dante and Virgil who combine their forces, all the while retaining their human forms.
I'll try it your way for once.
Remember what we used to say? Jackpot.
Not very classy for someone's dying words.
Meanwhile, with Virgil, who seeks power to impose order and protect what he values, he has complex motivations. Propelled by the loss of his mother, he has a flawed motivation for sure, willing to open the demon world to gain this power, but he does have a sense of pride and loyalty to his heritage. Meanwhile, Arkham's ambition is hollow, driven by envy and greed. It has this mirror to Virgil's hubris, but lacks that tragic nobility and the possibility of redemption, which Virgil does have explored later in the series, even if I have said in the past I find a little bit more murky than I would like. But here's the thing, the irredeemable nature of Arkham forces the characters to confront their own identities to one way or another. For Dante, Arkham's manipulation pushes Dante to mature, having the demon hunter witness Lady's pain and see beyond the flippant attitude that he has. For Virgil, it acts as foreshadowing for his own struggles and the dangers of unchecked ambition. By being the worst of humanity, deceptive, cruel, and power-obsessed, Arkham amplifies the other characters' journeys towards defining their own paths, making him an important thematic anchor. And of course, he has a proper ending that showcases irredeemable nature. Even after all his failure, he still hasn't learned.
My leg!
Well, that's the dumb version in my head how he dies.
And you shoot me, your own father.
What have I done wrong? Even the heroic Sparda sacrificed a woman so that he could become a legend. I wish to be a god!
Mary died a long time ago. My name is Lady. Goodbye, Father.
No!
Killed by the daughter he manipulated and hurt so much. The perfect end to an irredeemable bastard. And that's why I like Arkham so much. As an irredeemable villain, he really pushed the story of DMC3 to a greater height. And if it wasn't for him, well, I just don't think the story would have been as engaging. This is how you use an irredeemable character in a narrative. One of many ways, mind you, to create a villain who can propel the characters to grow.
OBJECTION! Your utter lack of experience has caused you to overlook a crucial fact.
Ace Attorney as a series is one I feel needs more love, especially nowadays. Although the series has been in a weird funk right now, that's not gonna stop me from talking about it to some degree. After all, it's a series was filled with twists and turns, amazing music, funny gags, and of course, very memorable villains. Whether it be the wig thrower, the sunburned version of a protagonist, or even MatPat?
Hello, Internet!
Regardless of who's at the stand, there are a ton of memorable and irredeemable villains in the series. Hell, even the wig thrower when he shows up again. I guess some criminals never change. But who we're talking about is someone who's another step on the ladder of corruption, and that would be... Prosecutor Manfred von Karma. One could say that von Karma is the final boss of the first game, a prosecutor who's obsessed with maintaining his perfect win record to the point where he'll manipulate evidence, coerce witnesses, and even resort to murder to preserve his flawless image. Despite the fact that he only physically appears in the last case of the original game, von Karma's influence is felt throughout the entirety of the remainder, since he was the mentor of Miles Edgeworth, the prosecutor you face off for the last two cases in the game, and the childhood friend of Phoenix Wright. So in a sense, von Karma's shadow looms over the entire narrative, especially considering that Miles adopted a lot of his tendencies and fashion sense. I mean, just look at those glorious cravats, they're fabulous. But here's the thing, in the climax of Turnabout Goodbyes, it shows the depravity that Von Karma will seep to, just with the fact that a defense attorney, Gregory Edgeworth, managed to get Von Karma penalized over a coerced confession. Von Karma was shaken. He still won the case in the end, mind you, but he was penalized and that left a mark on his perfect record. Von Karma was shocked by the penalty. His perfect record was the only thing he valued above all else, and it was the only thing by the hands of fate that Von Karma was given a chance to get revenge. He killed Gregory Edgeworth, managing to pin the crime onto another person successfully for years. This murder isn't just a crime, it's a betrayal of justice, driven by Von Karma's wounded pride after receiving a penalty for his unethical tactics. And during that time, he adopted Gregory's son Miles, not out of compassion, but to mold Miles to become a perfect prosecutor, and effectively ensuring that Miles would never learn the truth. Von Karma even planned the perfect revenge against Miles himself, making the young man feel like he was the one who killed his own father. since before even Von Karma killed Gregory, Miles had incidentally shot Von Karma in the shoulder. It's a long story, play the games. This monster of a man showcases the truth of his twisted mentorship, manipulating the grief of a child to serve his ego. And unlike other Ace Attorney villains who show fleeting remorse or tragic motives, Von Karma never actually wavers. Even when confronted, he doubles down and has blatant refusal to any sort of redemption. If he's not perfect, what's the point? But as an irredeemable character, the writing and presentation of Ace Attorney really utilized them to a great narrative effect. His commanding presence, his psychological complexity, and his role as a narrative foil, these are what make him a very effective irredeemable villain. Von Karma's presence is unforgettable. The game's dialogue and sprite animations portray him as a towering figure with sharp, cutting remarks and a menacing objection that shakes the entire courtroom. There's Von Karma's psychological depth without excusing his actions. His perfectionism is rooted in a warped worldview where winning justifies any means, reflecting real-world dangers of unchecked power. This makes him relatable yet horrifying, as players recognize the allure of control but recoil at its cost. And finally, Von Karma serves as a foil to Phoenix Wright in the series' themes. While Phoenix fights for truth and trust in his clients, Von Karma manipulates lies to crush his opponents. This contrast highlights the game's core message: justice requires courage, not just victory. His impact also lingers, as Miles Edgeworth's arc of breaking free from Von Karma's influence underscores the villain's long-reaching shadow. What makes Von Karma so effective is how the writing balances spectacle with menace. The game's witty prose and exaggerated style could have reduced into a cartoonish tyrant, but instead his calculated cruelty grounds the narrative. His dialogue is laced with condescension, calling others foolish fools while exuding confidence, yet it never feels overdone. The writers also use subtlety, revealing his crimes through investigation and deduction, making players feel like detectives unraveling a mastermind's plan. This gradual exposure builds dread as Von Karma's perfect facade crumbles to reveal a monster. And when you finally catch Manfred out in his lies and he's slamming his head into the wall, it has this very satisfying feeling, calling out this monster who ruined countless lives all for the sake of his ego. Though I do like the take with the pachinko machine for Von Karma's downfall, though. What makes an irredeemable villain truly unforgettable? Is it raw power, a tragic backstory, or something creepier? To me, there are many ways of making a villain memorable, and I believe that this guy still fits the bill.
You can call me Yoshikage Kira. I'm currently 33 years old. Not that you'd care, but I reside in Northeast Morio's Villa District. Also, I've yet to marry.
Yoshikage Kira. A serial killer so chilling, so irredeemable. I'd have to say he's probably one of my most favorite villains in fiction. Yoshikage Kira isn't your typical bad guy. No world domination, no ancient prophecy, no grand ideals. Just a guy who wants a quote-unquote quiet life in Morio, while secretly murdering women to fuel his hand fetish.
When I was a young boy, I remember discovering Leonardo da Vinci's enigmatic Mona Lisa while leafing through a tome of the master's works. It was my first time laying eyes on her. The beauty before me, well, it aroused.
Because hands make my dick rock hard!
You sure know how to write 'em, Iraqi! Most people who are familiar with my channel will be aware that I did a pretty comprehensive video on the guy a few years back, and it's one of my favorite videos. But since a good amount of time has passed since then, I figured a small refresher for this one would be a good thing for this topic. So what makes Kira so unforgettable? First, his normalcy is his greatest weapon. Kira's not a cackling madman or a power-hungry tyrant. He's a salaryman, wears a suit that's a little bit too fancy, lives in a nice house, blends into Morio like he's just another neighbor. Beneath that facade, he's a predator. His stand, Killer Queen, lets him erase his crimes with explosions, leaving no trace.
Killer Queen was すでにドアノブに触っている.
It's that contrast. Mundane on the outside, monstrous on the inside, that makes your skin crawl. Kira's obsession with hands, specifically women's, takes his creep factor to another level. It's not just that he kills, it's how personal and bizarre his motive is. He doesn't want power or revenge, he just wants to indulge in his life in peace. That lack of a noble goal, it makes him feel so real, like he could be living next door or standing right next to you on the street. And here's the kicker, Kira's irredeemable because he chooses to be. There's no tragic backstory to make you pity him. Well, actually, Araki said he wanted to put in... There's no "society made me this way" excuse. Kira knows exactly what he's doing and loves every second of it. When he's cornered, he doesn't beg for redemption, he doubles down, fighting to protect his twisted little world. Hiroko Araki crafted Kira to be the ultimate antithesis to the JoJo heroes. While the Joestars fight for family and justice, Kira fights for himself, his quiet, sick routine. His intelligence, his adaptability, his sheer commitment to his lifestyle makes him terrifying. You can't reason with him, you can't redeem him, you can only stop him. And that's why Kira sticks with you. He's not just a villain, he's a nightmare dressed with a tie. Araki didn't want to write just a bad guy, he wrote a monster who feels like he could exist in the real world. Well, save for the stand. And that's what makes Yoshikage Kira one of the greatest irredeemable villains in fiction, at least to me. Again though, if you want more details about Kira, I'll link you to a video where I go into a deeper dive into the character down in the description. Hell, I may talk about him again in future videos, but who knows? So, heads up on this one, this is an additional spoiler warning since the game for this just came out. Therefore, if you don't want spoilers for FNAF's Secret of the Mimic, I think it's best you just move on to the next chapter. I'd give a secondary spoiler warning because, while this did come out, this does have a bit of a spoiler for the DLC of Security Breach 2, but I'm not too worried about that one. But in any case, I'm just wasting time so people can actually look up from their draw tablets and use the chapter system. Yeah, I'm talking to you, pal. Pay attention for 5 seconds. Alright, let's start this. In Secret of the Mimic, you play as Andrew, an overworked and abused Fazbear Entertainment technician.
Well, since you asked, I just finished a 36-hour shift, and I'm struggling to stay awake. Frankly, I tried to tell my manager that I can't work like this anymore.
Awesome to hear. Well, listen, we need you to take one more shift for us, since you're our closest technician in the area.
Wait, what? I can barely keep my eyes open.
Sadly, representation of today's job statuses. Andrew is tasked with infiltrating Murray's Costume Manor, an abandoned workshop owned by the missing contractor Edwin Murray. Your mission is to retrieve property of Fazbear Entertainment, which is effectively some blueprints and of course the prototype animatronic, the Mimic. But this isn't just any animatronic, it's a shape-shifting, relentless, and utterly irredeemable villain that can make your blood run cold. The Mimic, specifically Mimic 1 and its upgraded version Mimic 2 or M2, was created by Edwin Murray to cope with the tragic loss of his son, David, who died in a car accident on his 4th birthday. Edwin poured his grief into programming Mimic 1 to act like David, but when he lashed out in anguish and struck it, the Mimic didn't just glitch. It learned to be violent. M2 takes this to a whole new level, becoming a calculating killer that can shapeshift into any costume, blending into the manor's cluttered, dark halls filled with empty mascot suits. This ability to disguise itself makes every corner a potential death trap, as you can't just trust what's real. Unlike other FNAF animatronics with predictable patterns, M2's adaptability keeps you paranoid, wondering if lifeless costume is about to spring to life right next to you. But it's not the shapeshifting that makes M2 irredeemable, obviously. It's the way it gets inside your head. This thing doesn't just want to chase you, it studies you. M2 can mimic the dispatcher's voice to trick you into doing what it wants. It's something that it did in Security Breach's DLC Ruined, where you were tricked by the Mimic to go to it while it was disguised as Gregory. This isn't a mindless machine, it's a villain that chooses to exploit people. While other FNAF antagonists are driven by possession or are skin suits, M2's AI allows it to actively choose cruelty, setting it apart as a monster with no moral compass. What seals the Mimic's irredeemable status is its relentless malice and the havoc it wreaks. In the game's standard ending, M2 ambushes Arnold after he retrieves its schematics, killing him without hesitation. Even in the good ending, M2's pursuit never wavers. It's not just a threat to Arnold, It's a danger to the entire FNAF universe. The game ties M2 to Security Breach Ruin, showing that it was a puppet master behind later animatronic horrors, proving its evil has no limits. Even its tragic origin doesn't excuse it. Edwin's grief created M2, but its choice to embrace violence and deception makes it unforgivable. Unlike, say, a possessed animatronic acting on external forces, M2's actions feel deliberate, almost sadistic. As it toys with Arnold, it manipulates everyone around it. The mimic's design amps up its terror. Its bare endoskeleton with an uncanny, almost human posture, paired with decayed costumes, hits a creepy, uncanny valley. Its audio, glitching, mocking voices, and mechanical clanks makes your skin crawl, especially when it mimics the dispatcher to mess with you. The Manor's oppressive atmosphere, with its maze of costumes and shadows, feels like M2's playground, where it's always one step ahead of you. Ultimately, the mimic's irredeemable nature comes from its blend of intelligence, deception, and unrelenting evil. It's not just a product of Edwin's grief or Fazbear's greed, it's a monster that chose to betray, manipulate, and kill. Its shape-shifting psychological torment and refusal to be contained make it a threat that lingers long after the game ends.
I don't have the capacity for love, Janice. I was cursed by a tribe of gypsy ninjas when I was a kid.
I know, Lance.
Oftentimes, charisma and entertainment is a necessary element to characters, even irredeemable ones. In my first video, I brought up Jack Horner as a very good example of this. While I wouldn't say he's charismatic to an extent, the character does bring a certain energy to the story that makes him entertaining. While at the same time, he has this entertainment value, he certainly is irredeemable because of his goals and actions. There are plenty of other villains who do fall into this camp, and I believe I do have one who kind of falls into the same vein.
Robotic citizens of the Solana Galaxy, the hour of your liberation is at hand! Too long have we robots suffered under the bigotry, the stupidity, the squishiness and foul stench of organic life forms. Soon, all robots will bask in the liberty and equality of my benevolent, iron-fisted rule.
Dr. Nefarious from the Ratchet and Clank series, the robotic mastermind so unhinged, so deliciously evil that while he does a lot of irredeemable stuff in the series, he's just got that level of oomph and charisma to him.
You did the right thing, Doctor.
Before we dive into his antics, let's talk about origins. Dr. Nefarious always wasn't a robot. Once a flesh and blood scientist, he was mocked and humiliated by Captain Quark, that smug hero of the Solana Galaxy.
Mr. Buzel's 9th grade biology class!
I always hated biology.
That's right, you were that freak with the headgear. Remember how I used to clean the chalkboard with your pants while you were still wearing them? Oh, good times.
You were 3 times my size, you stupid hoe!
I was always big for my age.
You were 26!
Say, how about a wedgie for old time's sake?
Nefarious got rebuilt as a robot, his bitterness twisting into a burning hatred for all organic life. That's the spark that lit his galaxy-sized vendetta against the Squishies. Dr. Nefarious doesn't mess around with small-time schemes. The guy's got one goal: wipe out all organic life, those pesky Squishies, and replace them with a robotic empire. Whether it's with the Bio Liberator or hijacking the Great Clock to rewrite history.
With the clock under my control, I'll be able to wrong all the rights in the universe. Every villain who has ever stumbled will get a do-over. Every protagonist's triumph will be reversed. Until finally, a new present is created, in which the heroes always lose!
Ah, Insomniac Games, you crafted a villain for the ages. Nefarious has this level of energy to him that just makes him stand out. He's a walking spectacle, part mad scientist, part reality TV star, sometimes big goofball. His wild monologues and cackles sell every planet-destroying plot, whether it's unleashing warbots or building weapons in his own image, and at times can be rather entertaining when he blows his lid.
I believe there has been a misunderstanding. Secret Agent Clank is merely a fictional character I play on the horror video.
Squishy lies!
Oh, Lance, I can't. It's not right. You're my cousin's uncle's son.
His failures are iconic. His grand plans always crash thanks to Ratchet and Clank. Those moments when he short circuits into a soap opera mode, hilarious. But he's got that lethal threat to him too. Not to mention all the time he spent on a small asteroid kind of broke his sanity.
Initiate super wavy flashback effect! Thanks to you and your dim-witted friend here, I found myself drifting through the cosmos. Have you ever spent time on an asteroid? It's surprisingly boring!
Nefarious loves being the bad guy. Even when forced to team up with All for One, he's scheming to stab everyone in the back, sometimes not even being subtle about it.
You know, I'm actually starting to like it here. Sure, it's a dangerous planet riddled with murderous robots and exotic predators, but take away all that, and what do you have? A presidential retreat / water park.
Can I kill him now? No. I can make it look like an accident. How? Ratchet.
I know some people bring up this scene.
Nefarious, I'm sorry I pushed you around in high school. You were smart, and I was such a...
moron?
I was gonna say Adonis, but if you want to be a jerk about it...
I'm sorry, too. You should know that even as I was wishing the Blarg would tear you apart limb from limb so I could river dance around your smoldering, squishy carcass, I still considered you a friend.
But I'll still maintain that Nefarious had some interesting intentions with his friend's demise. Plus, he still loves being a supervillain.
Nice try, Lawrence. But today's been a day of revelations for all of us. Together, we faced a villain that was neither robots nor squishy. And we learned a little something about life, friendship, and the sticky connective tissue between right and wrong. So I'm afraid Dr. Nefarious isn't going to do anything but steal our ship.
What do you expect? I'm a supervillain!
I think what really gets me is the performance with Dr. Nefarious. He's voiced by Armin Shimerman, the same actor who played Quark from Star Trek, and you can tell he just eats up the scenery every time he's on screen. A good mixture of evil genius, bumbling oaf, and entertainment all wrapped up into one mechanical package. And I think he's at his best when he's that the large ham of a villain and can be irredeemable at some points.
Bungee gum!
In the world of anime, I'm sure there are countless villains who are irredeemable. Any number of them could be used in this video. And if there are some you think deserve to be in here, let me know. I'm always willing to check out new media. Of course, we've talked about Yoshikage Kira in this vid earlier, but there are probably a lot more that you think deserve to be in this video. For now though, let's talk about another villain I've been wanting to speak about for a while, Hisoka.
My, how unusual. Seems this poor man's arms have turned into flower petals.
Hisoka Amuro, a magician whose twisted charm and ruthless bloodlust make him out to be one of anime's most unforgettable villains. A pro hunter with a jester's aesthetic. Think deadly card tricks, star and teardrop face paint, and a vibe that just screams danger. The clown aesthetic is an interesting one when you really consider the fact that there's a long list of detestable characters who adopt it. Characters like the Joker or Kefka. It's a good choice for some villains since clowns tend to have a bit of a fear to them. Hisoka does have a bit of an element to him in that, but he's more well known for other things besides his design. Hisoka lives for one thing. The thrill of fighting a worthy opponent, like Gon or Crollo. He'll kill without blinking, spare someone just to duel them later, or flip allegiances on a whim, all for his next deadly high. Hisoka's not chasing power or revenge, he's a predator addicted to the game of violence.
Don't look at me like that. It's really turning me on.
Well, that description has a bit more implications than I intended, but whatever. Hopefully I don't need to explain the issues with that, especially considering that the main protagonist, Gon, is a young boy. A young boy who can do this. But the point still stands that Hisoka is a creep, and that alone makes him irredeemable. Still, there are other elements to consider, such as his sadistic unpredictability. One second, he's slaughtering weaklings for fun, the next he's coaching Gon to get stronger, all for his sick payoff. His playful cruelty, like a cat toying with prey, keeps you on the edge. It's part of the reason why he aligns himself with a few entities like the Phantom Troop or even a family of assassins. He's more or less priming some good materials to have a fight with. Of course, the moment you don't have that spark to fight anymore,
俺はお前と戦えないというより戦うに値しないと言っておくか俺は奴にジャッジメントチェーンなる鎖を心臓に刺されてもう念能力も全く使えないんだ
You might as well not exist. There's also his manipulative intellect. Hisoka's a master strategist, setting traps with mind games. In his fight with Castro, he uses taunts and misdirection to dismantle his opponent's plan, all the while chuckling. Faking a Phantom Troop tattoo? That's Hisoka's playing the board. And oftentimes he'll mess with his supposed allies, for odd reasons.
僕がキラーをやるのはありかい。お前を殺す。冗談だよ。さっき漏れてるけど大丈夫？あ、しまった。もしかしてはめた？まさか。
Then there are his abilities. I won't go into a full explanation of Nen, but Hisoka's ability is Bungee Gum, which, I don't know if you know this, has both the properties of rubber and gum. It's essentially an aura that has a lot of elasticity and sticky elements to it, allowing him to snare foes or even cheat things. And while Hisoka does have some impressive physical strength, his abilities give him a lot of adaptability. Hisoka is irredeemable because he revels in his depravity. No tragic past, no moral flicker, just a gleeful monster who lives for the thrill. Unlike, say, Kira's calculated kills in which he destroys people for his own pleasure and to make sure he doesn't get caught, Hisoka's chaos is impulsive, making him a walking wild card. Well, that and the fact Hisoka's creep factor makes him pretty irredeemable in my eyes.
Until the fruit becomes ripe enough for me to pluck.
To be frank, there are countless irredeemable villains out there, and how far gone a character can go will be up to impersonal interpretation. I'm sure there are some villains who people think a character like Sephiroth can be redeemed, even though the guy will stab anyone in the back if his mommy tells him to. Of course, I think a lot of the villains I've talked about today are excellent villains who are irredeemable, and now I look to you guys. Tell me what villains you think deserve to acquire the moniker of irredeemable. Give me examples and tell me why. Honestly, villains as a topic is very fun to talk about, and it's always good to make fun of silver-haired mama boy.